Rick Miracle here with another video. Number 19. Well, this one ought to really shake you up. It's on occultism and high technologies. 2013. What can they do? Madame Blavatsky, Magic Eyes, a leader in the occultism. Alice Bailey, another leader in occultism. Dowsing for water, dowsing for oil. Harp systems, sky spraying, technologies that can change the weather, mind control people. Where is all this going to lead? It seems very ominous. Look at this video and then you decide if it's crazy or not. Rick Miracle reporting. Hello, Rick Miracle, returning with video number 19. I thought I would get into the occult and some other dynamics of technologies that rise from Nikola Tesla's world, where Nikola Tesla, on many occasions, when he was speaking before groups of people, would mention that in the meditative state or in the dream state, sleeping state, he would have communication with beings from the other world. So let's just discuss it a little bit and see where it plays a part in Masonry and Satanism, i.e. Illuminati and Zionism, the New World Order, and all the chaos that we're experiencing today. On that note, this book, Letters on Occult Meditation by Alice Bailey. And again, you can find these books on used book sites for a couple bucks. Alice Bailey was one of two of the leaders. There were more, of course, but two of the well-recognized leaders in occultism back in the 100 years ago, plus or minus. And they learned a lot of material over in India and in Tibet. So I thought I'd read to you just a tidbit here and try to keep this video a little lively. So here we go. Meditation, in the occult sense, is not only a training technique for the mind, but a means of achieving alignment, union, and identification with the soul. So here, Alice Bailey is saying people have a soul. But me, Rick Miracle, asked then why do most people that I talk to and young people in school in the USA in 2013 tell me there is no God and they have no soul? What nefarious, evil intention is being perpetrated on the people? Ultimately, with the Father, so identification with the soul and with the Christ, and ultimately with the Father, as distinct from the experience of mystical union, occult meditation establishes a scientific process by which causes set in motion will produce identifiable effects which can be repeated at will. This is a technique to be mastered by the mind. It involves intense mental activity followed by an absolute stillness. We're talking about meditation here. With the ability so to control and order the mind that engages in action and becomes stilled in reflection at will. So she's saying basically, if you meditate and you study it, you can achieving alignment, union, and identification with the soul, with the Christ, and ultimately with the Father. Alright, that's on the back of the book. I'm turning to page 192. It is on the misuse of this knowledge that much of what we call black art or evil magic is based. By means of invocation and forms, the dark brothers, or those who tamper with what you ignorantly term the power of evil, tap forces connected with dark intelligence in high places. Thus, they set in motion happenings on the physical plane that have their origination in the dark mystical caves of cosmic evil as found within our solar system. Equally so, it is possible to tap the still greater forces of light and good and to make application of them on the side of evolution. So what she says here, it is on the misuse of this knowledge that much of what we call black art or evil magic is based. My point, and I think I can prove it to a degree, and we'll get into that in this video, that this is the world by which we are identifying UFOs. If you look on some of the websites on the internet, you will see that a lot of them are orbs. Orange orbs, red orbs, white orbs. And then when they video them, well, even if it's 2013, I just saw a new video the other day. And the orb will be, the glowing light will be in the sky, and it'll split apart into two lights. And then one of those lights will split apart into another light. So a lot of these UFO sightings are orbs. And my question is, fair enough, are they using some kind of supernatural magic, occultism, with the technologies they have today to open interdimensional doors and bring in aliens? Or what they would have been called hundreds of years ago, demons, creatures. Anyways, I'm going to poke around on this book a little more, but that's the first few minutes. And let me take a break. Okay. Now remember, these videos that I'm doing, Masonry and Satanism, is on books that I have read. And this book, Psychic Archaeology, by John Goodman. I read this several years ago. And there's a little tidbit here I'd like to share with you. But before I do, I'd like to explain to you what psychic archaeology is. Well, basically, archaeologists, as we all know, they go out to sites, historic sites, and they dig around and they can find fossils of dinosaurs, or in the Egyptian area, mummies. Archaeology, all over the world. Well, instead of just digging around helter-skelter and spending lots of time and money from the university budget and getting nowhere, apparently the archaeologists, they don't want to admit it, but they started using psychics. So the psychic would take a map of the area and maybe a pendulum and float over the map, and the pendulum would gyrate and give certain indications of artifacts. Just a little tidbit of knowledge people, general and the public, don't know. And my point is, as we just, in Alice Bailey's book we just looked at, there apparently can be the misuse of this knowledge. And remember, we did hear a little bit with Edgar Cayce and his ability to go in a trance. So I thought I'd just read with you this one little tidbit. Even more provocative than Mr. Greenman's article was the mythology of the Hopi Indians of northern Arizona. This tribe's tradition teaches that 3 worlds existed prior to the one we live in now. So we're living in the 4th world. Legend says that a very long time ago, in the 1st world, their ancestors came into this continent from islands across the sea. This is the Hopi Indians out west in New Mexico, Arizona. The 1st world was destroyed by fire. The 2nd world was destroyed by ice, and the 3rd by water. That would have been the Great Flood prior to the 4th world we're in now. To the Hopis, these worlds existed in the San Francisco mountains, the mountains outside of Flagstaff. I was at Flagstaff last year. Fascinating place. when I was driving on Highway 40. I could actually see on the sides of Interstate 40 lava. I guess it's ancient, but there's lava on the ground. You could pull over and walk on it. These peaks are just about 70 miles from the Hopis' present home in Oroby, the oldest continuous occupied village in America. This all makes good geological sense. The destruction of the first world by fire could represent the volcanic activity that took place in the Flagstaff Mountains. That's the volcanic activity and stuff I walked on 250,000 years ago. What was amazing to me is all this volcanic debris, which was very coral-like and sharp-like. It would really hurt you. It looked like brand new to me. I guess the rain keeps it clean. The destruction of the second world by ice would represent the glacier-like activity that took place in the peaks approximately 1,000 years ago. I grew up in Maine. In Maine, apparently all those hills in the ground is the result of the ice carving all that out of the area. And the destruction of the third world could represent the wet period, corresponding to the near mountain basic damming and flooding that occurred 25,000 years ago. So my point is, I had to be careful here, though in trying to use a myth to back up my psychic story, I might be criticized by the old saying about the blind leading the blind. So, again, I want to get back to why I feel there's nefarious things going on. Masonry, Satanism, Illuminati, Zionism, banksters. These, and I can prove this, these elites, these people are practicing occultism now. They're communicating with the other side. The skills are there. You can get this book. Alice Bailey says it can be used for nefarious purposes. Other books show that the skill sets are out there. What evil entities on the other side? And there's all kinds of stories. We've heard them all. That the Galactic Federation has told the leaders of the world that our use of nuclear weapons will call for retribution by the galactic forces in space. And then the psychics talking to demons. And how do you know when you're talking to somebody on the other side? Are they good intentions or do they have bad intentions? And here's a history of the world, and we have 3 ages. Is all this insanity? The Georgia Guidestones talking about reducing the population. There's 3 population reductions in this book. Is somebody on the other side telling these people that are ruling this nation, are they getting their source of information from the other side? And is it nefarious? Do they say the human race is destroying the universe and has to be destroyed? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing. The technologies apparently are out there. And these people who are ruling our world are not informing the people of any of their knowledge. As a matter of fact, whenever anybody makes a huge discovery, the Smithsonian Institute, in the ground of a skeleton of a huge entity or gold or statues, the Smithsonian Institute swarms in there like flies on jets and men in black suits, quarantines the site, runs off with all the artifacts, and tells the public nothing. That's what ticks me off. That's why I'm doing these videos. Alright, let's get on to the next subject. Alright, let's check another book. Again, this may appear to be random and odd, but I'm trying to make a point here. And the point is, when I talk about Masonry, the mysteries of Masonry, everybody knows. That's why a lot of people go to the lodges and join. They want to learn the secrets. They think there's something to learn. Anyways, this is the Psychic Journal of the American Society of Psychical Research. From this one is 1916. I collect these old books. It's a rather old document. Then they're pamphlets. And what they are is they're the monthly or quarterly pamphlets published year after year from like 1840 to 1940, just before World War II. And then a lot of this stuff went underground, and the forces that be, especially in the United States, the Illuminati, and the people ruling the nation, the Zionism people, were trying to take God out of the schools. They had to also eliminate information and verification about psychic research, because if one believes in psychic research and souls and entities, then one would tend to also believe in God. So with that said, let me read you this and let you decide. I decided to make experiments in spirit photography. Accordingly, I went to Mrs. Bartell's rooms, 1752 Welton Street, having made previous arrangements for the experiment to test the truthfulness or falsity of spirit photography. Remember, I said this. They started the American Society of Psychical Research around 1850. They did the European one around 1840, and then some years later they started the Psychic Research Society in the United States. And you can go on the used bookstores and get these for a few dollars. They're just fascinating to read. But there's just information the general public doesn't have and should have. Okay, let me go on. Anyways, the truthfulness of or falsity of spiritual photography. And if you know anything about this, the way they did videos back then, Kodak made these plates, about the size of this book, I suppose, and you put them inside this camera, and then you open the shutter and close the shutter, the old-fashioned physical cameras. So anyways, apparently somebody was living in a haunted house, and when they photographed people, they were photographing the ghost. So anyways, the truthfulness. Mr. Chase Bartell's son of Mrs. Bartell being the medium. Mrs. Bartell was the medium. This would be the person who would sit there, like if you go to see a psychic reader to read your horoscope or tell your future, that's a medium. And mediums were very popular in the 1840s and 50s, right up and just until prior to World War II. And again, then it all seems to disappear. Why? Although on every corner you see a psychic sign, and all over the country I've noticed, but how many people really get into that? Apparently quite a few, because I noticed they have Mercedes cars and the beautiful, nice homes these mediums live in. Alright. Charlie, promiscuously selected a glass plate. So he just selected a glass plate out of a bunch of glass plates, placed it in the holder, and then the ladder into his Kodak. I seated myself. He focused the instrument upon me and snapped it, and I was photographed. Okay, nothing wrong there. There was also present at the time Mr. and Mr. Bartell. Charlie and myself went into the dark room, Mrs. Bartell following to witness the developing process. I witnessed the experiment from start to finish, saw the plate placed into the holder, then into the Kodak, then into the developer, the chemical fluid, and saw the faces appear as the developing fluid brought out the delineations and thence into the fixing bath. We found that there were 3 spirit faces on my photo. One of these is recognized by my sister-in-law as her daughter Ella, who passed some years ago. So they were taking in the photograph with somebody who had died. I attest to this in every particular it was straightforward transaction, void of any semblance of deception. This on the 10th day of November 1903, address 1910 16th Street, Denver, Colorado. Again, I'm not trying to read books to you. I could read plenty of fantastic stuff. But my point is, I purchased these books over the past 10 years. I go online and find them. And just wanted to show you what I did. There's one here. This is January 1916. Here's one October 1917. The Return of Professor Monstenberg, The Ordinary Man in Psychical Research by Frank Windsor. This is June 1915. It says here, Scientific Theories and Psychic Research, a group of important incidences. That's 3. Okay, 4, January 1915. A series of recent non-evidential scripts, the soul returning to medicine, psychic phenomena and their explanation. Okay, here's one here. The Journal of American Society of Psychic Research, 1992. The Journal of American Society of Psychical Research, American Society of Psychical Research, 1992. So they had something called automatic writing. And I've been watching and I've been talking to you about the Basis series. And I was watching Basis 8, Paul O'Connor. Miles Johnston is the producer of the Basis series of YouTube videos. And remote viewing, Google that. And he would be given instructions. They would target something, let's say a particular piece of property, a military base in Russia, for example, and give it a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 8, 8, and that would be the target. And so he wouldn't even tell them what he was going to target. He would say, go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 8, 8, and tell me what you see. And the remote viewer would sit there, clear his brain, and have a piece of paper on the table in his hand, and the first things that would come to his mind, he would start sketching. So all he knew was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 8, 8. And the person who gave him the instructions had written above that the target and the assigned number. And by that number, this man's subconscious would draw the target, which would be a big, vast building, and then the craft submarine being constructed inside in Russia. This is remote viewing. And it's very important we get our head around this technology, because this is what the Illuminati and the Black Ops projects and the government and all these things going on, people are unaware. Hence, Masonry. All the people who wind up in political power and office go through the lodges. The bad guys get selected, get put in these jobs. They're running all the Black Ops program. And the citizens of the USA and the world are blind to what's going on, and potential victims in a big crisis maybe they're planning. Just saying, it's what I think, it's what I see. So here, just to saying, looking at this book here, the ESP hypnosis, they're mind controlling people. My point is, you can get these books, and the technology's there. Can they be mind controlling people? Are they? Another book I found was interesting was oil locating. This is dowsing. You can go on the internet and find this book by Vern Cameron, Master Dowser. So oil companies pay this guy money. I'm a dowser. I could show you how I do it. But here's some of the tools. I use a pendulum and I use L rods. Here's the pendulum. And I believe I'll give you a little example of how to do this. Hold there. But you don't see this on too many videos. Anyways, I became proficient at this. This is what the old men do when they go to find water. But I use a pendulum. You can see my hand here. And what I can do is, you have to imagine that this is my left side is my conscience brain. And between the two portions of your brain is called the brain barrier. The right side of your brain operates at a frequency much faster than my voice and my eyes. Infinitely faster. It's what connects us humans to the higher power world. So if I ask this pendulum a question, I'll show you how it works. You can do it too. You can practice. It takes time. I've been doing it so long it rotates rather quickly on its own. Okay. Mr. Pendulum, that's what I call it. Show me a no. It's giving me a counterclockwise spin. And then when I say thank you, Mr. Pendulum, and yes, my hand's moving, but I'm not moving it. It goes back to the forward and backwards and forth. Mr. Pendulum, show me a yes. Now it's going in a clockwise direction. Thank you, Mr. Pendulum. And it goes back and forth. Now who's doing this? Here, I'm going to hold my wrist. Mr. Pendulum, show me a no. Show me a yes. Takes a second, and yes, my hand's moving, but I'm not doing it. I'm talking to you. You try to do this, and if I was to do it, I guess I'd have to go like this. But if I use my subconscious and just say, show me a yes. Show me a no. So subconsciously, like a dream or whatever, it is controlling it. So, hence, if I want to know something, say, will you give me the numbers on the lottery today? It's saying no. Figure that out. Thank you. Should I jump off the roof? Luckily for me, it's saying no. Alright, would I like to go out and have lunch with a pretty girl today? Oh, it's doing an enthusiastic yes there. Look at that. So, it takes a little practice. Let me go back to yes. Go back to ready. So it takes a little practice, but when I go into the, I can do it with my physical body too. I can take my fingers like this here, and I can say, show me my no, show me my no. And this one here is twitches. Show me my yes, show me my yes. So I can stand there in the pharmacy or the grocery store and pick up some vitamins and hold it in this hand. And I don't look odd to people, and I'll ask my brain, is this the highest and best vitamin for me in this store? And I get a yes or no, and I'll put it down and get the next one and the next one. It does it for water. You can check it with, you can pour yourself a glass of tap water and a glass of spring water. Test this yourself. It's fascinating. My point is, with Masonry and Satanism, like we saw in Alice Bailey's book, there can be these people who learn these natural abilities, can use it for good. I mean, the Catholic Church had several priests hundreds of years ago that when particular cities or schools or whatever needed water and the well went dry, they would send out the dowser. And I think I have that book right here. This one here is a Psychic Society of Psychical Research, 1897, volume 13, if you can see this. Specifically, I'll hold it here so you can pause it and look. Talks a lot about dowsing for water. So again, I'll read it to you. It's 1897. You can look this up. Proceedings of the Psychical Research Society. This is fascinating. Go on the internet to a used book site. So for a couple bucks, get one of these. I've done my research. And examination of evidence, geological opinion, the words douse and dowser, geological opinion of underground water, how the rod is held, the sensations alleged to occur in dowsing. You know, it's got a whole nice thick book here. How many pages? 277. So I'm a student of this. So you can take your pendulum like this, and say you have a cup of water, and let's say to the pendulum, in my case, show me 100%, and it knows what my brain is telling it to do, and show me 0, and it's over here, coming here. Show me 100%. It's over here now, to the right. So you hold it over a glass of water and you say, on a scale of 1 to 100%, 100% being the best water, what is the quality of this water? And if it's tap water, it'll be 10, 15%. And you're not supposed to consume anything under 50%, because then it takes more energy from your body to consume the food or the water than the benefit you're getting. So you're using more energy to process anything under 50% than any energy you're going to get for it to make your body healthy. So if you're checking out tap water and it's at 30%, one would say you shouldn't drink it. And then you put it over the spring water, it'll be at 60 and 70%. And if you happen to be in a store and you want healthy water, it pays to have this skill. So I just thought I'd show you that. And there are many books on the internet on how to do this. You don't have to believe me, it's just too much. But I thought I'd show you another tool I use. These are called L-rods. These are what people use to find water. And what you do is you walk along, and as you're walking, you're asking your brain, cross. I'm going to tell them to cross now and they will. I'm not doing it, I'm holding my hands. Cross, that's my yes. Show me my no, just like a pendulum. Show me my yes. And I realize my hands are moving, but it's not me doing it. It's my subconscious brain moving the muscles. So here I am walking across a field, and I have a little map of the field. And I walk in a straight line, and I say, show me an underground cavity of water, exceeding 10 gallons per minute. And I walk across the field, and at some point, show me a yes, it'll cross, and then as I walk across the cavity, it'll uncross. So what I do is I back up and I put a stake in the ground. And then I walk across the field, and if there's any more underground cavities, I put a stake in the ground. Then I'll slide to the right or the left, 10 feet, 20 feet, and I'll crisscross the field again. Show me any cavities of water, and it'll cross when I cross over them. And I put stakes in the ground. So if I zigzag across the field, there'll be stakes in the ground if there's a cavity of water. And I'll be able to actually see an underground river on the surface by my stakes. So when I call the well driller, let's say I bought a piece of property and I want to build a house, and the building department won't give me a permit to build a house unless I prove I have water. If I'm familiar with dowsings, and most of your well drillers, you ask them about dowsing, they'll say, yes, I can do it, or I know, I call Bob or Tom or Bill and they come out and do it. But if you don't do it, and the well driller is perfectly happy if you don't do it, because he charges $3,000 to $5,000 a hole to drill with his equipment in his truck. Notwithstanding the fact that to get to the particular place where you have to do it, you have to kind of make sure the road is flat and take down any trees. It's expensive. So then if he drills the hole, and he gets down 1,000 feet and there's no water, he just shakes his head and says, sorry there, bub. Would you like another hole somewhere else? $3,000 to $5,000. He is happy to do it all day long. He is happy. But you get yourself a dowser, crisscross the field. You can ask any well driller. Look it up on the internet. So many books out there on this subject. I could show you 50 books. I've got them. I've read them all. I take my research serious. So anyways, you get a dowser. And then when I'm standing over, let's say a water cavity, and I'll hold my rod over the cavity, over where the stake is, and I'll ask the rod, I'll say, is the cavity more than 100 feet? And it goes, no. Oh. Is it more than 90 feet? No. And then I ask it, is it more than 80 feet? Yes. So it's between 80 and 90 feet. Your subconscious mind can do this. My point being, with these videos I'm doing, and what we know about World War I, World War II, the secret thing, the Federal Reserve, Russian Revolution, killing 66 million people, the Illuminati being in the occultic activities, And I'm going to show you some more evidence here. That's what this video is all about. Showing you that there are literally hundreds and thousands of books out there on this subject, and the general population is completely oblivious. The school system is teaching these kids and the people that there's no God. Yet there's obvious this spiritual force. We did that review of auras, Edgar Casey. So I thought I would share with you the dowsing and some of this material. And let me get another book and continue on. And I don't know how much I have to keep on going and going and going before you get it. Alright, so in the history of the occult world, also aka called the New Age movement, and two of the most popular women would be Alice Bailey, the book we looked at in Occult Meditation, who even talked about the dark side. And this one here was Madame, Magic Eyes, Madame Blavatsky, I'm sure I'm saying her name wrong, by John Simons, a book. And you can go on the internet, use book sites or whatever, and get these books delivered to your house. Aid Books, I'm sure, has one for a couple dollars. A lot of times it's free shipping. I don't want you to believe me, but I'm going to read you a little bit about her bio in the back. This startling and magnetic woman, daughter of the Russian nobility, probably attracted more attention, more abuse, and more acclaim than any other woman in the latter half of the 19th century. There are many women out there into the occult right now. I've dated a couple girls and accidentally discovered a whole box of these books and all this stuff. This is when I wasn't studying it, but I started studying this, if you remember me explaining it numerous times, is I was always into physics and science and worked at the Space Center 10 years as an electronic engineering technician. I'm an expert in electronics. And as a child, I was always interested in space and rockets and anti-gravity, which many young boys were and girls. So and it was my life study was I was always buying the science books and the Popular Science magazine and Nexus magazine and computer science. It was just, I had an alert brain that was a sponge for these types of knowledge. So anyways, when after 2001 and around 2004 or 5, I got into these studies, researching what's going on, and I was interested in studying energy again, and so we could get away from oil and gas and nuclear power. Remember, the oil prices went through the roof, and I had made a deal with myself to never stay away from this pursuit of knowledge in my life, although I got into business for 10 years to try to make some money. I kept studying. Anyway, so when I did go buy old books, when I went up to Maine and I bought 55 acres of land, and in Maine there are a lot of antique bookstores, and I got some antique books by scientists, and I read their autobiographies and the textbooks written about them, and 75% of them, as I have said many times, had fathers who were ministers or in the church, and they were having occult experiences, hearing voices, having dreams, and seeing apparitions. The other 25 plus or minus % got hit in the head, altered the blood flow to the pineal gland, and they started having visions and all that stuff. So there is a science to this, that there is 2 lobes of the brain and there is a barrier, and one is the practical side of the brain, like a computer, keyboards and a screen, and the other one connects to the whole universe, like your wireless internet, and the substation down in the city that connects you to China where you can look up dragons or whatever. One is the wireless internet to the world, the other one is the computer in your home with the keyboard. That's my best explanation to understand the 2 lobes of the brain. One you see and you can touch, one is out there in the wireless world connected to the whole internet universe that a lot of people are addicted to. And it enables me in my research to really move great leaps and bounds. 10 years, I've sponged up a lot. Anyways, nearly 100,000 acknowledged disciples mourned her death in 1891. Now think about this. Hitler was into this. The Russians were into this. The Russian Revolution, they killed all the Christians. Destroyed all the Christian churches. Dismantled them, destroyed them. They didn't do the Jewish temples. And they didn't tear down all the Jewish temples. The Zionist Jew. Remember, they were into the Kabbalah. All this stuff ties together. That's my point I'm trying to make here. So, knowing these people run the world today, like Prime Minister of Israel said, Sharon, don't worry about the USA. We control the USA. They have all the Black Ops programs. The Basis series with Miles Johnston I keep talking about, that I watch an hour or two every day lately, because it's Basis 1, Basis 2. Basically, it's just a different person who was either an abductee or a remote viewer or somebody with this special knowledge, and he interviews them and they go into the long series of conversation, and you too can listen to it. It's fascinating. There's so much evidence out there. All this stuff is true. And my point for this series of my videos is to give you the short road track into my book review of the many books that I've read, and save you years of time if you want to verify this is true. You don't have 10 years. Anyways, it says here, the Theosophical Society, which Madame Blavatsky created in New York, together with Colonel Olcott, reorganized in India, was founded to form a universal brotherhood of humanity. Well, I hate to tell you this. Their publishing company that they started in New York City was called Lucifer Press. Look it up on Wikipedia. And then later on they changed it to Lucas Press. Look it up on Wikipedia. And a lot of your New Age books, look in the front book where it says published by, it'll say Lucas Press. Look up Lucas Press on the Wikipedia. It'll say formerly named Lucifer Press. So Blavatsky and Bailey and all these people into the occult, communicating with the other side, were more focused on the Luciferian demons they were contacting, who are trying to, I suppose, take over the world, which is biblically prophesized. The demons of hell will be let loose. So weird how all this stuff comes together. Alright, so was she a charlatan? I'm reading a little bit more from the index. And again, I'm not trying to read books to you. I'm just trying to tell you about the books I read. I read all these books, cover to cover. Was she a charlatan? This is the question. The Society of Psychical Research sent Richard Hodgson out to India to investigate the evidence of the marvelous phenomenon on the spot. His report was shattering. I hate to keep giving you sidebars here. But if we know about World War I, World War II, Russian Revolution, French Revolution, Iraq wars, all this stuff going on back in Babylon today in the Middle East, killing hundreds of thousands and millions of people from Iraq to Afghanistan to Libya to Syria, and it's planned to take over the whole region and probably eliminate all the populations. Lucifer. Sorry, I get a little carried away. Hodgson had not witnessed any phenomenon. That's what they said. The controversy is still continuing around Madame Blavatsky, the founder of modern occultism. This is what Zionism, Kabbalah, Madonna, Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus show on TV. So let me go inside this book. I put a couple of markers here you can see so that I would find something to tell you. You can see here they have an apparition. The company arose and trooped out into the garden with lanterns in their hands. They went to the flower bed shaped like a star, and after uprooting several flowers, found the missing family brooch wrapped in paper. So did she really do something magical? Or was it all a scam? Alfred Sinnett was quite convinced of HPB's occult powers, and he felt that she must have knowledge to equal it. But he could plainly see, on the other hand, how inept she was when it came to managing the society's affairs. He could do better himself if only the brothers would take notice of him, and he told HBP of his wish to get in communication with them. He felt that they would be more reasonable to deal with than the tyrannical old lady whose hysterics created a very bad impression. So she apparently, besides all her crazy abilities to communicate with occult beings, you know, apparitions and manifest things in thin air and all the occult sciences that she was into, she had quite a personality that went into hysterics, and there she is. Alright, I'll be right back with a little finish to this that's a surprise. Alright, so we know about the occult, we know about the manifestation, we know about the basis series and the mind control, and the trauma even facing the USA people with 9/11 and the economic crash and all kinds of craziness going on. There's some other books. These go way back in my reading, like 8-9 years when I first found out about the insanity going on. This book here was published, HARP, The Ultimate Weapon of the Conspiracy. Let's see here. When did they do this book? 1998. You see that on the bottom? This is before 2001. I gotta verify that. 1998. So anyways, the short of it is, remember we have auras. And you can use L-rods and communicate with the right side of your brain to the universe. And Ed Casey could get readings to help cure people, etc. So here is this array of antennas in Alaska. And apparently I've heard anywhere from 7 or 8 of these worldwide to a couple dozen, 24, 26 of these systems worldwide. Basically, it's a transmitter like a microwave oven. Imagine turning on your microwave oven and opening the door and sticking your head in. You know, you have to rig the switch so it didn't turn off. With the microwave running, I suppose that would not be healthy for you, would it? Well, they turn this puppy on in Alaska, or any of their other ones, and as you can see by this picture of the Earth, it sends radiation everywhere on the Earth. Same frequencies as their microwave oven, by the way. Top secret stuff. It says right here, Freemasonry and Illuminati versus the Vatican owning the weather. So anyways, it comes from Tesla science. That's one of the Tesla towers right here. And Tesla, if we remember correctly, was having visitations or apparitions or dreams or voices from the other side teaching him the technologies that we now enjoy today with wireless cell phones, which I continue to say could also be used as a weapon against us if they, and they do know this now, if they were to use it, even when it's off, to transmit a particular frequency to turn you off. Because it starts pulsating at a certain frequency and it starts overcoming your own physical body's control. So you got these people into the dark occult sciences, the Illuminati. These Illuminati people now have this stuff. Photo time. And these people like to throw children in the fire for sacrifices. He's got the all-seeing eye on his belly. We looked at this. This is Moloch. Little live body there on the table. Some strange looking creatures on the bottom. Our presidents and officials in California at the Bohemian Grove having a ritual, throwing a baby into the fire. The star that's on Israel's flag, the Zionist Israel today. Worshipping the cow when Moses took the Hebrews, not the Israels, Hebrews out of Egypt from Babylon. The dollar bill has this. This was a post office up in Maine I went to the eye in the pyramid. There is an owl on the dollar bill up in the corner if you want to take a look. Is this what's going on? Is there a battle between the spiritual forces of good and evil? Well, it said in Alice Bailey's book we just looked at that there is black magic. Here's casting out a demon coming out of her mouth. Guess we see Miley Cyrus bending over too. You think all that's just an accident? We know that story I told you about, Jesus casting out the demons and putting them in a herd of swine, drove them off the cliff into the water to die. Apparently some kind of photograph of some kind of demon in the woods, in the mountains, or in a cave. I don't know. Some kind of religious photograph. All kinds of religious pictures of the past of these creatures. And I guess a little treat. I've been watching the Star Trek series over again. 1, 2, 3. Go on hulu.com, H-U-L-U. Watch 1, 2, 3. You're not going to believe this. There's I guess a mountain or a computer called Vol that Captain Kirk and Spock go to, and these people live in like a Garden of Eden. And he releases them from Vol's control, and so they can learn how to have sex and kiss and all that, just like the Garden of Eden story. But I thought what was funny is Vol reminds me of Baal, which is one of the demons. Anyway, Star Trek has the aliens. The Egyptians' hieroglyphics has the aliens, the gods. Apparently, like David Icke and a lot of people these days, our eyes only see if the spectrum of light or frequencies is from this end of the screen all the way to this end of the screen. The spectrum that we can see is smaller than my finger of the visible light that we can see. So if there were something even in this room outside of the spectrum and on the scale of this here, so let's say it was over here or over here, I couldn't see it because the cones in my eye are only tuned to this particular frequency, like tuning in your radio in your car. So apparently if there's any kind of creatures out there that are in a different spectrum, and they can, I guess you could call them invisible beast, but they're not. They are in a way. They're just not as dense as we are. But apparently, these demonic beings can overcome your aura by being behind you and actually physically operate through you. Hence the reptilians they talk about. And David Icke says the Queen of England is actually a reptilian shapeshifter. And apparently there's different levels of these creatures mixing with the DNA of humans. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I read. Remember in the Garden of Eden in the apple, the guy was a reptilian. Ancient monuments out there in Egypt, South America. Did you see that? Look familiar? These grays look awful demonic to me. Different artist renderings. I was out to Roswell. I saw all the statues and all the banks and restaurants with all the little alien statues out front. Even the credit union was alien credit union. Different people's descriptions of them. Are these some, with all the abductions and mutilations of cattle, have they been messing with the DNA and creating these creatures? I don't know. I just research and report. You decide. Here's something fascinating. Stephen Quayle wrote a book called Giants. I have it. Right here. We were going to go over this book. But apparently when Moses brought the Hebrews out of Egypt and they were going to the land of Canaan, that's where Palestine is, and the whole issues are going on right now overseas in Israel, Syria, Libya, Lebanon, Iraq, Afghanistan. They had these giants in Canaan. And God told Moses to tell the people they had to go there and eliminate these giants. And to trust God, that they did not have to fear. But they did fear, and they would not listen to God. And they were investigating the land of Canaan for 40 days. And the story goes that because they came back and they were cowards, except for 2 of them were not. The other 8 or 10 were. So it was, I guess the word from God to Moses was they would have to wander the desert for 1 year for every day they were in there investigating because of their cowardice and not listening to God. And that at the end of the 40 years, not one of the people who were alive of the tribes, except of the tribes of the 2 guys who were not cowards and wanted to go attack. Just an interesting story. Would wander the desert for 40 years, and not a single soul that was alive at that time would be alive in 40 years. But their descendants would return and wipe out the Nephilim. That's the giants, which were the sons of God who found the women fair and interbred with the humans and made up these giants. Just stuff your research. And if you read Stephen Quayle's book, and you look at some of the pictures, and I read this book from cover to cover, and it has all kinds of history and the biblical history in South America, giants in South America. And I read this cover to cover. It's a fascinating book to read. It has everything from biblical to Europe, the Grand Canyon I told you about, with the Smithsonian. Whenever they discover one of these skeletons of these creatures, Smithsonian or the Black Ops from the government shows up, confiscates everything, makes everybody shut up with the threat of death or imprisonment. What is going on? I keep asking. What is going on? Anyway, so whenever they find any of this stuff, they abscond with all the evidence, and the people don't know any better. It's got a thing in here about the devil. Let's see. The truth about Freemasonry. That's in there. Freemasonry portrays itself as a man's fraternity that takes pride in its civic duties. Wow. Ask a low-ranking member, and he may even tell you that it is a Christian organization. Remember, the series is Masonry and Satanism. All this stuff I'm telling you today should be blowing your mind. But in fact, it is anything but. It is what is known as a secret society. And in that, its complete doctrine is known only to those at the top of the organization. Well, we know about this. Rothschilds are in charge. The Illuminati's taken over Hollywood. They made cards for a game called the Illuminati before 9/11 with the buildings in the Pentagon. Look it up on the internet. You can buy one of these things for 60 bucks. The whole game. George Bush is related to all these people. They're all into Mary. There's more of the games, the cards for that game. I think I showed you these the other day. All the symbols of all the big corporations. The sun star, the pyramids. This is what we're dealing with. We're the little people here on the bottom, and all we have is a couple pawns. They borrowed all those trillions. The top is at the Queen. Remember, she might be a reptilian. Wall Street financed Stalin, financed Hitler, provoked all the war. Winston Churchill, sorry about that, was into the occultic big time. Had even several people, if you look at the Basis 31 with Miles Johnston I just watched, and the woman who was telling the story. Where was that document? Well, anyways, I have it here somewhere. Let me find it. I hate to be absent-minded a little bit, but this is kind of all enough to make a person half-minded, I think. Anyways, Chris Cooper, in May 23, 2013, published this paper on Mr. Mr. T. Stokes. Mr. T. Stokes died. Stokes believed that the New World Order communism could only be defeated by educating the public. Hence these videos. They're just to get you a little start. And when you find out the truth, you need to tell your friends, stop drinking the fluoridated water, and wake up. The public that the Soviet soft communism plan was a thin end of a very sinister wedge. Did you hear that? It's called the New World Order. British intelligence wanted Britain to stay out of World War II. So Churchill replaced all the key figures in order to get the country into the war, having the popular intelligence chief Vernon Kell, K-E-L, murdered by his own fireplace. Look this up. T. Stokes. Chris Cooper. As I investigate, I keep finding more material. All this just ties together, the occultism, the pendulum, you know, of course there's nature and there's cures and there's herbs. I mean, even in history, hundreds of years ago, the king might be dying and his magicians can't cure him. But there was rumored Paracelsus, that was the name of a physician, I'm probably saying his name wrong, Paracelsus, who was into all this, traveling all over Europe and India and China and studying the different herbs to cure different diseases and ailments. So here's a particular king. Let's say he's a king in England. And his magicians are not helping him. So he summons this Paracelsus, this healer. And the doctor shows up and he looks at the guy. He's got swollen feet. They're making him sick. Maybe it's gout. And so he gives him some crushed pineapple or black cherries. And he cures the king. And the king is happy and praising this guy. Well, now the magicians are unhappy and jealous. So they tell the king, King, listen to us. This guy's possessed by the devil. you need to go ahead and burn him at the stake. This is the mentality that was going on back then. And these evil people who were jealous and who want to control us are the Illuminati, the Freemasons that make it to the top, the Zionism people, the banksters. We're in trouble. We need to wake up to the reality. Murdered by his own fireballs. Churchill's used black magicians. Churchill's used black magicians in World War II, many of whom were known personally by Stokes, who had himself studied occultism and was one of 3 men who exposed Churchill's murder of Neville Chamberlain, the most popular prime minister ever. Stuff is published. I didn't make it. You can look it up. Stokes wanted the British news media to cover the Soviet murder of British nationals, which usually appeared in the British news media as deaths through car crashes, skiing accidents, drug overdoses, and falling from high balconies during parties. But I don't need to tell you, if something happens to me, the bad people did it. But if enough of us, so make copies of all these videos I'm doing, and download them, make copies, and hand them out to everybody. Stokes was able to penetrate through London's Jewish taxi driver community into Mossad. Mossad is the Israeli secret police, like we have the CIA, NSA. Along with James Rushbridger, who was murdered, claimed that Lord Rothschild, the illuminator of the Illuminati, was a major spy of WW2, and also claimed that since the Russian Revolution, where they killed 66 million people, mostly by starvation, of 1917, the Soviet Union was run by Rothschild's appointees, who colluded together with the British Rothschilds to bring about wars and conflict for financial gain. All right. This by these people. Your friend and mine, not the Illuminati. Rockefellers, Morgans, Chase, Oppenheimer, Schiff, Kennedys. That doesn't mean that John Kennedy didn't have a change of heart. Lincoln, who was the leader of the Rosicrucians. That doesn't mean that Lincoln, now president, doesn't have a change of heart. But he got where he was because he was an insider. But when they do have a change of heart, they get assassinated. Well, I hope I've shared a little bit of information with you about dowsing and about occultism, dark side, all this stuff. It all ties together with Masonry and Satanism. And I'm just worried there's a bad day coming. Stephen Quayle, go to his website. All these people got their books. He's republished another one. And why in the Smithsonian, whenever anything is discovered, do they abscond with it and don't show it to the public? What are they hiding? What are they doing with HAARP? They can aim this at the sky and actually raise the ceiling of the ionosphere and move masses of air. They can aim it over a city and modulate signals so that you think you're listening to God. They can tune in and make the whole city turn into a rage by changing the frequencies. I don't even want to get into sky spraying. This is another book. Are they both by Jerry Smith? They sure are. I've just been going through my boxes because I'm moving, trying to sell my condo. And I've been finding the books I've read over the years. And so every one I notice that I read, I grab out. But go on the internet, and I've put a couple hundred videos, Rick Miracle, like it's a miracle, sky spraying, that I've been photographing since 2000 and videoing since 2005. And so here's what they can do with the ionosphere, with that HAARP system. And they heat it up. And then they're saying we have global warming. We don't have to do the math for you, do we? They have the systems. See, Jerry Smith is just another author. This is what it looks like in Alaska. They can aim it at the sky. They're spraying heavy medical particles with all that sky spraying, so that all the ionosphere and sky is full of heavy metals. Well, metal does react with the electromagnetic radiation, right? Do you put a fork in the microwave? No. And then they say we have global warming. Then they want to force Obamacare on us. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that winds up being testing everybody's DNA and find out who's a reptilian and who's not a reptilian. And maybe this is just too much information for you. It's too much information for me. Video 19 of 25. So I guess I have 6 more to go. I can take a break. Thank you for listening, yet again. If you've made it this far, again I say you're a brave person. God bless. Use your brain. Use your power of prayer. Remember, the right side of your brain communicates. God does hear us. It's your intent. If you want to get greedy and you want something evil, your radiation will go to the dark side and you'll communicate with the demons. If your intentions are good and you don't want to murder and kill and obey the simple 10 commandments, there's nothing in there that makes your life unpleasant. No adultery, no bear false witnesses, no coveting. Pretty simple. No killing, no stealing. Pray to God for the earth and the planet and the people. And you're on the right side of the fence in this universe. On the other hand, the Illuminati, it seems, and the Freemasons, the people who are in the know, not the little people. The Zionists, the people in the know, not the little people. The globalists, the banksters, and I'm sure they all know. They mean us harm. They want less of us here, so they can have a nice empty beaches with no footprints on them, I guess. They don't want anybody drinking the wine, eating the food, breathing the air. So we got to go, according to them. And the Georgia Guidestones, which says it with the Masonic symbolism. So that's enough for this day. This is Sunday, November 10th, 2:45. And I'm finished. God bless. Thank you. November 10th. I don't know if you can see it, but right there by that cloud is a jet spraying. There we go. This is November 10th, 2013. This is a miracle in Orlando. And just thought I'd shoot this little video. Of the spraying going on. There's a plane right there flying, not spraying. And here is a plane spraying. And if we look around the sky, we can see all kinds of chemicals being dumped on us on this Sunday, about noontime. All that stuff is powder. Chemicals here in Orlando at my condo complex. I have posted like 200 videos on YouTube, videoing and photographing the sky spraying, and right there you can see in the bottom by the tree is a cloud, and above it is sky